Well, a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to TV 47 Weekend. I trust you're doing well this 28th day of May 2021. My name is Musa Salah and we have a lot lined up for you, but first, the top stories making headlines tonight. Tonight, the Court of Appeal to hold a status conference with parties in the BBI case next week. A 3-judge bench will sit in the case management conference. Also tonight, President Uhuru Kenyatta meets leaders from Nyanza ahead of tour of the region, promising to leave a legacy of a united country. The Federation of Kenyan Employers calls on government to hold dialogues with all stakeholders over the proposed NHIF amendment bill. FKE says the bill could exacerbate unemployment. And a boda rider who went missing and his motorcycle stolen 5 days ago found dead in Tigoni. Welcome to the broadcast. Anu Wairimu is our sign language interpreter. TV 47 Weekend begins right now. President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga have once again drummed up support for the handshake, urging leaders to shun off divisive politics which hinder development in the country. Speaking at State House, where he met Nyanza leaders ahead of his Nyanza region tour, President Kenyatta said his legacy will be a united country before his term comes to an end.
President Uhuru Kenyatta says his legacy is leaving behind a united nation and prosperous one by bridging tribal lines. Kenyatta drummed up support for the handshake, which he says created an ample environment for growth and development. On his date with cabinet secretaries and Nyanza leaders ahead of Madaraka Day celebrations in Kisumu County, Kenyatta also urged leaders to shun away divisive politics.
If we continue with the kind of politics that we have had in this country, the politics that I call start-stop, there is no developed country anywhere in the world that has ever achieved the social, political, economic aspirations of our people with a start-stop policy.
Echoing President's sentiments, ODM boss Raila Odinga hailed the Jubilee government for their advancement in infrastructure, a record which Raila Odinga says will be recorded in Kenyatta's legacy.
I say that the way to revive this economy in this country is, number one, infrastructure. Number two, infrastructure. Number three, infrastructure. I'm happy to see, Your Excellency, that your government has picked up from what we said and has actually addressed this issue of infrastructure very aggressively.
In his tour in Nyanza region ahead of Madaraka Feast, the president is expected to launch various projects which include roads, Soin Dam groundbreaking, Kibos Inland Depot, among other projects.
About two people. It is about bringing a country back on track. It is about bringing the people of a nation to feel once again that they are part and parcel of the whole. It is to remove the issue of people feeling marginalized, isolated, left out, and to encourage a feeling that existed in this country once upon a time when some of us were children, but we hear those stories. We're Kenyans, we're proud to be Kenyans.
The meeting comes just a day after the Deputy President William Ruto called for national dialogue on various matters ahead of 2022 polls. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV 47 Nairobi.
Now, the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country has risen to 170,041 after 344 people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. A total 30 people have recovered after receiving treatment from various hospitals across the country, as 16 others succumbed to the virus. Now, a section of elders from Mount Kenya region have refuted claims that the region is divided over National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi's coronation last Saturday as the region's official spokesman. Cracks in the mountain first appeared when a section of Mount Kenya leaders, including Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria and Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya, opposed the speaker's coronation, Wairia promising to cleanse the Mukurwe wa Nyagathanga shrine in which Muturi's coronation took place. Take a look. Last week's coronation of National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi as Mount Kenya spokesman has continued to divide the region. Central Kenya and Mount Kenya East residents divided on who should have ascended to the throne, but a section of elders from the region insisted that they are united, asking politicians to stop politicizing last Saturday's traditional event.
Na wakati alienda Meru, nistuka sana kusikia mtu anaitwa Munya akisema anjui ile mambo ilifanya achaguliwe.
Jina ile wanatumia for the last 2 weeks ni Muturi. Tunashindwa anje na tuko na uchungu mwingi sana wa uzazi. Kwani Muturi amefanya nini? Kwani si mtoto kama wa yule mwingine?
Sisi ni wazee. Wanasiasa wacha wapige siasa zao na kelele zao. Lakini wanasiasa sio wenye Mlima Kenya, mwenye Mlima Kenya ni wazee. Lakini siku utasikia wazee sisi tukirudishiana na njuri njeke vile hawa wanasiasa wanafanya, ndio utajua iko tabu.
Cracks in the mountain first appeared when Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria threatened to stop the coronation ceremony, leading to heavy security presence during the traditional power exchange ceremony. Wairia's defiance soon got support, with Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya sarcastically questioning Muturi's new role. According to Central Kenya's Kiama elders, Governor Wairia had no position to question their decision to pick Muturi as spokesman, and that the Council of Elders needed no green light from the governor, who recently toned down on Muturi's coronation despite promising to conduct a cleansing ceremony at the shrine earlier this week.
Sisi tunajua Muturi ni spokesman wa Mount Kenya. Hakuna story mbili wala nini. Na katika Mboma tunaweza fanya kitu inaitangwa merry-go round.
Yeye ni mtoto wetu. Wazee hawalaani watoto. Wewe baba yako anaweza kukulani kweli? Ukiwa mtukutu anakuchapa, anakurudisha kwa boma. Kesho unakuwa mtukutu anakuchapa tena, anakurudisha kwa boma. Sisi hatuwezi kulani mtoto, tunamuombea na tunampa mawaidha. Na labda alikuwa amekosa na kutoka saa hiyo hujasikia akiongea tena.
However, the elders hold that Muturi's coronation is incomplete with a prayer ceremony expected to conclude his membership to the Council of Elders.
Ile kitu itafuata. Sasa ndio tutapeleka mheshimiwa Muturi kwa hekaru yetu ya maombi na inakuanga Mlima Kenya. Na wakati tunaenda Mlima Kenya, tunaenda pamoja na ndugu zetu kutoka Meru, kutoka Embu, kutoka Mbere, kwa sababu sisi yote tumezunguka mlima, na sasa tutaenda kumuuliza Mungu ambariki mheshimiwa Muturi, ampe maarifa, ampe busara, ampe rehema na ambariki.
As the Kiama elders insist that they are not siding with any candidate in the race to State House next year, Muturi's coronation has been largely perceived to be preparing the two-time National Assembly Speaker to succeed President Kenyatta. The clarion call remains unity in the region. Well, let's get some more of politics, and members of the United Democratic Alliance UDA have refuted divisions talks within the party, which is associated with Deputy President William Ruto. This as hundreds of aspirants and members congregated in Nakuru to deliberate their registration and nomination processes ahead of the 2022 general elections.
Barely a week ago, sibling rivalry erupted within the Deputy President's United Democratic Alliance party after two outfits associated with his hustler nation were poised to clash in the incoming Kiamba by-election. Gotv Member of Parliament Moses Kuria was then forced to withdraw his People Empowerment Party candidate in favor of the UDA candidate.
That is a candidate for the hustler nation. Any other candidate is on his own. The UDA as a party as no surrogate child in Kiambaa.
Speaking in Nakuru after meeting over 400 registered aspirants from Kericho, Bomet, Baringo, Narok and Nyandarua, UDA Secretary General Veronica Maina downplayed the supposed brewing storm within the party, terming it as friendly fire.
You have those friendly fires because it's an attractive party. It's become one of the best political parties in Kenya, and we are building it. And we said once again, it's not even what we could say it's too much of our effort. I think God has favored UDA.
UDA aspirants lauded the party leadership for the bottom-up approach model, which they say will benefit the common mwananchi. Sentiments echoed by Baringo Women Rep aspirant Susan Chesina.
Na sisi kutoka Baringo County, vile mnavyojua, tulianza mapema sana kwa kutupa BBI, na hiyo ilikuwa sign ya kuonyesha kwamba sisi wote tumeingia katika chama cha UDA.
Tutapata uongozi ambao tumekaa miaka mingi tangu 1968 tunautafuta, uongozi ambao unajali mwananchi wa kawaida.
With the political season warming up in the country ahead of the general polls, political realignment and formation of new parties continue to take shape, which saw the birth of UDA 5 months ago in January 2021. Grace Josephine for TV47.
Well, thank you, Grace Josephine, for that report. Away from politics, the body of a boda operator who had been reported missing since Saturday has been found buried in a shallow grave behind a business building in Tigoni area. The incident has happened after police officers requested 14 days to complete investigations into 3 suspects that had been arraigned in court following the disappearance. Our reporter Petronila Goren with the details.
Friday morning, residents of Nderu stormed to the streets in anger following the discovery of Albert Njenga's lifeless body. According to the residents, Njenga, a boda operator, is suspected to have been murdered by a businessman who is allegedly associated with criminal gangs in the area. The irate residents set ablaze motor vehicles and a business building, among other valuable assets belonging to the suspect.
So we want to ask the police. This guy called Karanja has been mentioned quite in a number of occasions to have been involved in heinous act here. So we want to ask the police, when we report the matter to you, can you take them with the seriousness that it requires? And therefore today, we want to demand as the villagers of Deya that Karanja must not stay around this village. Correct. He must vacate. We cannot have people we suspect to be involved in murder living among us.
According to the police commander, Kiambu County, 3 suspects are in custody and investigations into the murder ongoing. The commandant has also warned the residents against taking the law into their own hands.
I want to appeal to the people of Limuru that we have been in the search together for long, since Saturday. Now that we have recovered the body, the motorcycle has been recovered, and the body recovered. I want the people to exercise some restraint. The law will take its course, and we shall do all necessary on our part. Riots, defiance, and disobedience of law will not pay anything. We will incur more damages, more lives will be lost.
Developing reports say the suspected mastermind of the killing has a hand in the cattle rustling that has been happening in Deya, causing a rift between 2 communities. Petronila Goren for TV47.
Well, Petronila Goren's report takes us to a short commercial break, but we'll be back with more. But before we take that commercial break, just to sample some of your comments on Facebook, Dennis Kibiwot says he's tuned in from Kituri, Solai. Thank you, Dennis, for watching. Princess Avilia also tuned in from Saudi Arabia, and Sophia Musepe also tuned in. Keep talking to us. 22047 is our SMS line. You can also find us on social media at TV47 Kenya on Facebook, as well as at TV47K on Twitter. The hashtag to use is TV47 Weekend. We'll be back with more.
Confused and uncertain career market after KCSE? Worry no more. TV47, the fastest growing youth targeted TV station across the 47 counties, brings you an entire month of career options and choice opportunities across all the leading universities and TVET institutions. We have put together a rich group of experts who will guide you through your career aspirations throughout the month of May. This will climax with a virtual career fair scheduled for the 28th of May at the University of Nairobi Auditorium. All relevant stakeholders are invited to reserve a seat via david.katiku@tv47.co.ke or careersfair@tv47.co.ke on 0791 999 883.
New Blue Band peanut butter. Made with 100% pure peanuts and a good source of omega-6. Grow healthy and happy kids with New Blue Band peanut butter.
Hey, now that's hitting the right notes. When life gets boring, we bring out our play. You see, playfulness is in our DNA. It's in the way we move and laugh. It's in the way we walk, the way we rock, and how we just don't stop. You feel me? We add color to everything, to every day and every dish, because the world needs our crazy. We're the different flavors that make life more exciting. We're the ones who add color to every moment. Fanta, color every moment.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku. Pata offers zote mahali pamoja ili uongeze zaidi, utume SMS zaidi na ubrowse zaidi.
Wewe usijali. Tuma namba ya kila supplier kwa hiyo soko. Nitajuble nitaongea na kila mmoja wao.
Very good. Piga *444 # utunukiwe Credo double.
Raukia siku njema na tunukiwa offers kila siku.
Oh, hi. It's not what you're thinking. It's a cup of coffee. Coffee, movie. Together, coffee with movie. Every Sunday, 8 p.m. on TV47, where we bring you interesting, enticing people. Well, we've concentrated on musicians.
Yeah.
What we are ticket.
Yeah.
Welcome back. You're watching TV47 Weekend. Now moving on, police in Ikolomani sub-county have arrested a 47-year-old man suspected to have defiled before strangling to death a 7-year-old girl. The decomposing body of the girl was found in a pit latrine 9 days after she had gone missing. Now, according to area OCPD Joseph Chesire, they arrested the girl's stepfather, who is the prime suspect, after a post-mortem examination report showed that the girl was defiled and strangled before being thrown into the pit latrine. And in Murang'a County, two families from Gakuyu village are still searching for their 2 teenage daughters who disappeared mysteriously 5 days ago.
Polycarp Omoseti, who was staying with the late who was his stepdaughter after the mother left for greener pastures in Kericho, has been arrested in relation to her murder. According to area OCPD Joseph Chesire, a post-mortem examination report prompted the arrest.
Post-mortem, it was discovered that this child was sodomized and defiled, and also she was strangled. Investigations commenced, And the suspect, we managed to arrest the father.
The body of 7-year-old nursery school pupil at Imalava Primary, Ikolomani Sub-County, was found in a pit latrine in the neighborhood.
So far we have gone with the investigation. We have the suspect in our cells. We have gone to court to request another 14 days to enable us exhaust our investigations.
Immediately after the burial of the girl at 10 p.m. in the night, according to the Luya customs, the angry residents stormed the suspect's home and destroyed property, baying for his blood.
Walianza kubomoa duka huko juu, wakatoanisha vitu za duka zote. Wakachukua unga, wakamwaga huko kwa njia, sukari, mafuta ya mboga, friji, TV, wakakatakata kila kitu.
Nipomo yangu wamepomoa hata nyumba yangu, hata walifieka mahindi.
The area MP Bernard Shinali condemned the incident.
Kama kitendo ambayo imefanyika hapa juzi hapa Imalava, na laani na nataka kutoka kwa OSPD, DCC, mpaka kwa assistant chief, mpaka kwa watu wetu wa mtaa wale community policy, wote tuwe waangalifu. Watu kama hawa tuwakamate mara moja.
And in Murang'a County, 2 families from Gakuyu village continue with search of their 2 teenage girls who disappeared mysteriously the same day.
Nikawapigia simu nikapata washazima. Ndio nikienda kuangalia kwenye walikuwa wameenda hivyo, katembea na marafiki wangu kumwangalia, hatukuwapata. Baadaye kutoka hiyo siku hatujai waona. Na penye wako nizaomba sana warudi nyumbani waendelee na masomo.
Mercy Waithera and Clarin Jerry, both 17 years old and students at Mukuru Wanyagathanga Secondary School, were reported missing on Sunday after church.
Aliniambia arudi huko kanisani. Na jioni nilimgoja, nilimukosa. Na kutoka siku hiyo mpaka saa hii bado kurudi.
Mercy na Clarin nilikuwa na wao on Sunday, tulikuwa na wao kanisani na tukasoma vizuri. Then nikawapea kazi, kuna kazi nilikuwa nimewapea wakiwa wawili, nikawaita na nikawatuma. Lakini time walienda hawakurudi tena, hawakukuja kunipea yani feedback kwenye nilikuwa nimewatuma.
Mimi ningemuomba arudi ndipo amalize shule yake kwa kuwa ako katika daraja la form 3.
According to the family, the 2 were last seen at St. Mark's SEK Kabui Church and their phones have been switched off since. Reporting for TV47, I'm Violet Auma.
Well, still on matters gender-based violence, President Uhuru Kenyatta has said that the government plans to invest 2.3 billion shillings towards the prevention of gender-based violence and progressively increase the funding to 5 billion shillings. Further, the head of state said the government would ratify and implement the International Labour Organization ILO Convention 190 on implementing gender-based violence and harassment in the workplace by 2026. The president spoke during the virtual launch of the Kenyan chapter of Generation Equality Forum at State House in Nairobi.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the last 10 years or so, we have enacted several pieces of legislation and adopted policies that offer protection against gender-based violence. They include, amongst others, the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act of 2014, the Prohibition Against Female Genital Mutilation Act 2011, and the Sexual Offences Act 2006. We have registered good progress. Notable is an acceleration plan for eliminating female genital mutilation implemented through a multi-agency technical committee which submits a report to my office every 6 months.
Well, still on that announcement by President Uhuru Kenyatta, which he committed 2.3 billion shillings to address sexual violence, terming it a national crisis. Now, according to a report by the Ministry of Youth and Gender Services, gender-based violence cases increased by 92% in 2020. Most of these have been attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has disrupted a lot of things, and the fact that couples spend most of the time together at home. And just to dissect this worrying trend and what the 2.3 billion shillings mean, I am joined by Paul Murunga. He is the program officer at End Sexual Violence Equality Now, a human rights organization that advocates for gender equality in the country. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, sir.
All right, you've just seen that story on the announcement by President Uhuru Kenyatta, and of course we've seen the report by the Minister of Gender Services saying that the GBV cases have increased up to 92%. Now this is very worrying, Paul. I think you might agree with me on that. What could be some of the key factors that are fueling some of these cases at home?
Yeah, these cases are being fueled by the fact that, remember from the time of the pandemic, schools were closed, work was closed, so a lot of family members were at home. And from our experience and from the report from our partners at the county levels, it is shown that during those kind of containment measures, perpetrators and victims are held in the same place, and therefore perpetration goes ahead. And then at the same time, also remember there was a time when our court system was also partially closed, and there was also actions by the government to decongest prisons as a measure to contain COVID-19 spread. So because of those, remember, there were also criminals or suspects who are released back to the community or the society. And all these fueled the violations. But above all is the fact that during such closures, during such containments, places of reporting cases like the health centers, the police stations, the chief camps are not easily accessible. So then this leads to increase in cases. And the cases we are having of 92% is just a tip of the iceberg. The problem is bigger than that, because the reporting that led to this number of 92% is reliant on the 1195 hotline number, which is more known in Nairobi as opposed to other counties and other rural areas. So if we were to do a mapping and a survey, we will find cases to be more than that 92%. So we should be more than worried.
You said that we should be more than worried, and these cases have been skyrocketing in the past few months. Now, is it right to say that it has reached a national disaster level?
Yes, very true. It has reached a national disaster level, and we are happy that the president declared it as a national crisis, because remember, even during the examinations, we were told over 10,000 girls pregnant and taking exams. So you can imagine that kind of situation.
All right, Paul, before we talk about the 2.3 billion shillings and what it could do at this time and moment, as an expert on matters gender-based violence and of course sexual violence, what would you propose, or what do you think these 2.3 billion shillings would do in this country?
From the conversation we've had with survivors of sexual and gender-based violence and those who are working directly with victims, the priority areas are, for example, just from the case you highlighted where a girl has been defiled and then killed. So if you want to get evidence in such a case, you'll have to do a DNA test, and we do not have forensic laboratories for SGBV cases in Kenya. The cheapest you can get a DNA test is 10,000, and remember, most of these people cannot afford this amount. So one area is to invest in is to ensure we have those laboratories to test any specimens that are found, for example, from such victims, so that we can be able to pinpoint the perpetrators. But beyond that, remember, we started an initiative called Nyumba Kumi. It is not working. We need to find a way in which we can strengthen those initiatives, so that, because they're the ones who are the first point of resort for anyone who has been abused in the community. When a girl is raped, when a woman is raped, they run to the Nyumba Kumi. But if the Nyumba Kumi is not well equipped to support in terms of the training, in terms of the facilities and equipment, then these cases die and they get lost. And that's why we don't have the clear statistics of the exact number of figures of defilement and rape. Furthermore, the other aspect that we need to look at very closely, remember, there are people who are still paying for PRC forms and P3 forms. We should be free. So then with this kind of money, these forms should be free for survivors, so that they can seek justice and they can be supported in the medical clinics. We need to have what we call the gender violence recovery centers. So far we have very few, only in level 5 hospitals. So we need to have this.
All right, Paul, allow me to cut you there. We cannot be talking about, or rather we cannot talk about gender-based violence without talking about the boy child who has in the recent month been under siege. Now, women are often the main victims, of course, but we cannot move out women in that men in that discussion. Rather, where can men run to when in distress, of course?
Yes, remember, if these shelters are put in place, if we have gender violence recovery centers, they are for both men and women. There are sections for men and sections for women. But remember also there are sections for children. So then this money, we are not saying that it is only for women. It is something that will benefit both the genders, men and women. For example, if we train the chiefs, if we train the Nyumba Kumi members and we equip them to be able to receive reports and be able to direct victims accordingly, then that Nyumba Kumi will be able to help both, either a man or a woman. If we provide free P3 forms without charging for the medical aspect of it, then that will help everyone, not only the women. On the other hand, also, if we increase information sharing, for example, about GBV, if government comes up with a campaign system that people get to know where to report, what to do when anything happens, then that can happen to both genders. The only challenge we are having is that, of course, and you can bear witness to this, is that men have been shy to come out to report cases, but it is true they are being violated, and there are people who also are advocating and promoting those rights. But we are not saying that men are not violated, they are not violated, but if facilities are in place, everyone will benefit.
All right, Paul, I have so many questions to ask you, but we are running out of time. We have to take a quick commercial break. But thank you so much for making time for us here on TV47 Weekend. We now take a short commercial break, but we'll be back with more. Stay tuned.
Confused and uncertain career market after KCSE? Worry no more. TV47, the fastest growing youth-targeted TV station across the 47 counties, brings you an entire month of career options and choice opportunities across all the leading universities and TVET institutions. We have put together a rich group of experts who will guide you through your career aspirations throughout the month of May. This will climax with a virtual career fair scheduled for the 28th of May at the University of Nairobi Auditorium. All relevant stakeholders are invited to reserve a seat via david.katiku@tv47.co.ke or careersfair@tv47.co.ke on 0791 999 883.
New Blue Band peanut butter. Made with 100% pure peanuts. And a good source of omega-6. Grow healthy and happy kids with New Blue Band peanut butter.
Hey, now that's hitting the right notes. When life gets boring, we bring out our play. You see, playfulness is in our DNA. It's in the way we move and laugh. It's in the way we walk, the way we rock, and how we just don't stop. You feel me? We add color to everything, to every day and every dish, because the world needs our crazy. We're the different flavors that make life more exciting. We're the ones who add color to every moment. Fanta, color every moment.
Welcome back. You're watching TV47 Weekend. Quite an interesting conversation we had right there by Paul Murunga. Of course, with Paul Murunga, he is the program officer at End Sexual Violence and Equality Now. Of course, the conversation does not stop there. It continues online. You can talk to us on 22047 on our SMS line rather. You can also find us on social media at TV47 Kenya on Facebook, as well as at TV47K on Twitter. The hashtag to use is TV47 Weekend. Now, Mount Kenya University MKU Chairman Simon Gisharu has reiterated the importance of investing in the health of workers in order to improve their productivity. And as Daniel Masiza now reports, Professor Gisharu today walked the talk when he led the opening of a fitness center at the university.
Let's appreciate our chairman together with the...
Speaking during the official opening of a staff fitness center and a cafeteria at Mount Kenya University's Thika main campus, Professor Simon Gisharu who is the chairman of MKU Board of Directors, appealed to the staff to make use of the facilities in order to curb lifestyle-related illnesses.
And by so doing, once you are fit, I know that you'll be giving the university a lot of time, because you'll not be asking for permission to go out to be treated. You will relieve a lot of stress, and I want really you to do that. Use the gym for promoting teamwork and other things, because it is there, and it is there for you. Form a club, you don't have to worry.
Professor Gisharu also revealed that the university has set up a COVID-19 testing center for the staff.
Today is a day to talk about the facilities that we want to build very soon. I will still be also inviting you again when we will be launching, and we are working with the Vice Chancellor that we launch the convention center. The Vice Chancellor is still working out on how he wants it to be, and we are still consulting, and I think from next month, Contractor Degwa, are we going to be through by next month? By next month, so that we can use that convention center for many other things, isn't it?
Mount Kenya University is the largest private university in East and Central Africa. Daniel Masiza, TV47.
Well, thank you, Daniel Masiza, for that report. Court of Appeal President Daniel Musinga has convened a 3-judge bench which will give directions to parties on the BBI case this coming Wednesday. The physical court session is expected to set the pace on the determination of the BBI case, whose fate hangs in the balance after the BBI bill suffered a blow at the High Court. This as lawyer Maurice Kimuli was sworn in as the 7th member of the IEBC selection panel, which will nominate IEBC commissioners to fill the vacancies within the electoral body should the court validate the BBI bill, thus setting off a referendum. David Mudonka has the details.
With the clock ticking and tension rising among BBI proponents over the fate of the BBI bill, 3 Court of Appeal judges will on Wednesday preside over a case management conference which will give directions to parties on the BBI case. The names of the 3 have, however, not been disclosed, with the Wednesday physical court session expected to set the BBI ball rolling again within the corridors of justice after flopping at the High Court. In the backdrop of the conference, Court of Appeal President Daniel Musinga is expected to constitute a bench that will hear and determine the BBI case. Should the court offer the BBI process a lifeline and consequently set off a referendum, efforts to fully constitute the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC gathered steam on Friday in readiness of the plebiscite. In the High Court ruling, the IEBC had been declared unconstitutional to conduct a BBI referendum owing to vacancies at its commissioner level. To kill 2 birds with the same stone, the electoral body not only appealed the decision but has also kicked off the replacement process at its top brass. The process received a boost on Friday after lawyer Maurice Kimuli was sworn in as the final member of the IEBC selection panel that will spearhead the nomination of 4 new commissioners out of the 669 candidates that have shown interest.
I will faithfully and fully, impartially, and to the best of my ability, discharge the trust and perform the functions and exercise the powers devolving upon me by virtue of this appointment without fear, favor, bias, affection, ill will, or prejudice.
We are now legally constituted to be able to perform the important task that has been given to us.
We are in this journey together at the service of Kenyans to ensure that we deliver what is required of us to Kenyans.
Kimuli replaced Dorothy Jamator, whose appointment was successfully challenged by LSK President Nelson Havi at the panel that will be chaired by Dr. Elizabeth Moli.
Having welcomed a new member into the team, it is now all systems go for the IEBC selection panel, whose next task is to shortlist candidates out of the 669 people who have shown interest of filling the 4 vacancies within IEBC's top brass.
Besides the 50-50 odds of a BBI referendum, IEBC's readiness to hold next year's general elections scheduled for August will hinge on the panel. This as BBI proponents exuded optimism in the likelihood of a BBI referendum, dismissing talk of a change of constitution through parliamentary initiative. According to lawmaker Moses Kajwang, the BBI process was a one-way ticket, culminating in a referendum.
And I believe that we still have time to deliver those. There are issues that are before the courts of law, and I believe that the judiciary will also take judicial notice that the matters that have been brought before them are of immense public interest.
For the coming months, all eyes will be set on the Court of Appeal as another do-or-die moment for the BBI proponents looms. David Mudhoka, TV47.
Well, thank you for that report, David Mudhoka. And still matters hiring, the Federation of Kenyan Employers has urged the government to hold public discussions for the proposed NHIF amendment bill. According to the FKE National President, Dr. Habil Olaka, the bill, if passed, would result in increased unemployment as employers who are struggling due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic would be forced to lay off workers.
The only message I have to our 2 speakers, to the leadership of both the Senate and the National Assembly, there are proposals before you that will ensure that every Kenyan is able to have access to health insurance. Please expedite the passage.
A day after President Uhuru Kenyatta pushed for Parliament to pass the proposed NHIF amendment bill that will bolster the Big Four agenda of the universal health coverage, the Federation of Kenya Employers is calling upon the government to involve stakeholders in discussions.
When another burden is put on the employer to be able to finance the very well intended program by the government, we need engagement, we need discussion and agree on what's the most effective way of pursuing with the program, because the cost cannot be fully borne by the employer.
The proposed bill, which will make it mandatory for every Kenyan above the age of 18 to contribute, also seeks to compel employers to pay contributions for their staff.
We have over the last few years, because this is not the first time this idea has been mooted, we've presented memorandums to the relevant committee of parliament, we've engaged them, we've had retreats, and our position has been that it should be factored in that employers are already providing medical cover to their employees in the formal sector through insurances which are in place even as we speak. We have proposed and advocated for an opt-out of NHIF as a whole for employers who have medical cover in place for the employees.
According to FKE, businesses which are already struggling due to the impact of COVID-19 will be forced to lay off workers, deepening the unemployment crisis.
The revenue inflows have since been affected by the fact that the market has been interrupted. The supply chains have been equally affected. So the ability of the employer to maintain the number of staff, given the production levels that have dwindled, is becoming a challenge.
The poor who cannot afford to contribute even the 500 shillings per month that is currently supposed to be contributed to NHIF, how do we fund that?
People in the informal sector will also not be spared.
COVID-19 did not only stop the creation of jobs in the micro enterprises, but it also wiped out 5.1 million jobs in the informal sector.
The Federation has urged the government to prioritize recovery of business, as it will go a long way in getting households and enterprises back on their feet. Margaret Wanjiru, TV47.
Thank you, Margaret Wanjiru, for that report. And education stakeholders earlier today participated in the inaugural TV47 Career Fair, where they discussed matters dealing with career advisory, mentorship, and guidance for students. Among the sentiments that emerged from the discussion include the lack of proper career advisory for students, access to HELB loans, and the positive trajectory in embracing the TVET courses. Chair for academic programs in the University of Nairobi, Dr. Fred Otieno, has emphasized on the importance of career guidance, saying that students should be proactive in career selection by timely consultation with parents and teachers. And the Deputy Director of Communications at Mount Kenya University, Daniel Kiriti, has said that parents should engage their children in career guidance in their formative years.
Start talking with your teachers and start talking with the universities or the tertiary colleges.
So for students who feel that they're not having access to the proper information in terms of career and related, I think I would say that there are quite a number of sites online that you can go to. There are career offices in our universities as well.
That the role of mentorship, career mentorship, start as early as when you introduce the child to school.
Mm-hmm. So it's a lifelong process, that's what you're trying to say?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That you need to see the strength, the ability of the child, and then from there you mentor them.
If you're very confused on what to take, you can do a psychometric test, and that will guide you and will help you in line with your personality and in line with your natural gifts. What are you capable of doing?
What endears the technical education to the people is the mode of payment. Mode of payment is negotiable. The terms in which they recruit students equally is not rigid as it is in the university.
Well, it's time to take a quick look at what is happening in the world of sports, and our sportsman Dennis Otieno is on standby on the other side of the studio. Good evening, Dennis. What do you have for us this evening?
Well, good evening to you too, Musa Salah. Now, tonight, we shall be telling you about the legendary boxer Kasongo and the good deeds he has taken to the Kibra slums. We shall also be telling you about the elections of the Football Association in Trans Nzoia County. Now, this and more coming up. And it's time for the sports news with me, Dennis Otieno. Now let's start off with matters athletics. World Under-20 favourite Emmanuel Kiplagat put up a brilliant performance to win the 10,000 meter final race on the second day of the 2020 Summer Olympic Games pre-trials at the Nyayo National Stadium Friday morning. Kiplagat came from behind to launch a powerful kick in the last 200 meters to finish first in the 28 minutes 28.02 seconds. The victory comes barely a week after the 17-year-old won the 3,000 meter and 5,000 meter races respectively during the Athletics Kenya Central Rift pre-trials for the World Under-20 Championships held in Nandi County. Meanwhile, Sharon Lodeki clinched the women's 10,000 meter race in a time of 31 minutes and 43.34 seconds ahead of Sandra Felis Chebet and Nancy Jelagat, who finished second and third respectively.
Mbio ilikuwa mzuri kabisa. Ingawaje ilikuwa choto sana. That I wasn't expecting this hard, but tulijaribu. Mimi kukuja hapa leo ni kujaribu, and then in the next 3 weeks I'll be back here again for trials. I already have the time, but I'm just willing to qualify and represent Kenya.
The pre-trials will be culminating on Saturday morning till evening. Well, all the best to all the athletes that are participating in that. Now, moving on. Trans Nzoia County Football Association held its elections under the watch of Sports Registrar Rose Wasike, who called on football clubs to comply with the Sports Act. This happened even as the Football Kenya Federation maintains it is the only body maintained to or pretty much mandated to run football in the country. Boniface Barasa reports from Trans Nzoia.
Kenya Football Federation and the Mushrooming Football Association in the country, Trans Nzoia County Football Association held its selection unperturbed under the watchful eye of Registrar of Sports, Roswasike. Boniface Wodore and Zakaria Ndungu were elected chairperson and secretary respectively, the duo shifting their focus on scouting and nurturing grassroots talents. Claire Wasilu, a former FIFA referee, won the race for the treasury.
When umekuwa ukicheza football, unajua kiatu hicho vile huwa inauma. Hii ndio mwanzo wa kuweka vitu vizuri katika spoti katika Trans Nzoia hii.
FIFA saa hizi kumeanza revolution mahali pale. Na ni ya kuleta vitu na kuziweka on the right track. So FA si government imeleta peke yake, even FIFA iko na FA. Kwa hivyo msiwe na wasiwasi, tuko pamoja, tutawasupport mahali mtatuhitaji.
For the football stakeholders, may I promise you that this team here is ready to transform Trans Nzoia County football, to take it back to where it was.
Speaking shortly after the exercise, Wasike urged clubs to embrace the late sporting regulations, noting that the majority have not complied with Sports Act of 2013, a situation that is taking a toll on the performance of Kenya football clubs.
Mkisha register lazima muhakikisha mmeamend constitution iende vizuri na Sports Act na constitution ya Kenya. And then the strategic plan on how you are going to run. And then I'm also expecting you people to have good integrity, good governance. Hiyo mambo ya wizi, kuibia mfanye nini mchezaji, sijui kuiba nini amecheza, mmepewa pesa mwapatie ndio hiyo mmepocket mmepotea. Actually, that's what is making organizations fall.
With Trans Nzoia County Football Association now in place and more others set to conduct their elections, the hard nut that must be cracked are the differences between the country's football governing body FKF and the associations. Boniface Barasa, TV47 Sports, Trans Nzoia County.
Well, thank you, Boniface Barasa, for that report. Now, moving on. Legendary boxer Omar Rajab Ahmed Elias Kasongo marks 7 years since embarking on a journey to nurture young boxing talents in Nairobi's informal settlement of Kibra. Kasongo, who hung up his gloves in the year 2000, after waiting for a work permit in Canada for 3 years without success, hopes his efforts will transform the informal settlement. Mercy Kuloba tells the story of Kasongo, the legendary boxer.
Millennials like yours truly and the Z generation may not recognize him, but in the early 90s, Omar Rajab Elias Kasongo was a household name in Kenya. A former Commonwealth and All-African Games heavyweight champion who commanded respect in the global boxing quarters for his craft.
Hiyo boxing ilinisaidia kunitoa kwa mashida hapa mtaani. Kama hapa Kibra kugrow unajua kwa mdogo. Kuna vita saa yote ama wengine wanaingilia mambo ma drugs, wengine wanakuwa waizi nini. Sasa ile kitu ilinisaidia sana ni hiyo boxing.
Having ridden high, the Kibra-born fist master who earned the name Kasongo for his love of orchestra Super Mazembe's song, Kasongo Mobali Nangai, returned home. The 50-year-old nurtures young boxing talents in Kibra slums through his Omar Kasongo Sports Academy he set up in 2014. All this aimed at giving back to society as well as changing the image of the informal settlement.
Nijaribu kusaidia vijana wengine pia nione kama watakuwa line ya mambo ya crime na nini waingie kwa sports. Juu sports kuna venye na usaidia mtu.
Though slowly, Kasongo is steadily changing the stained image of Kibra, the youths who would otherwise fall into robbery, drug abuse and early marriages are fully engaged in the academy.
Kuna wasichana pia ukuja, na pia kuna wasichana wakubwa wale ucheza pia saa zingine. Once in a while utapata kwa game watacheza, wengine unajua female kuna challenges mingi. Tunaonyesha sports na bado una discipline pia unawapatia pia. Juu ya sports hawezi tumia unaambia mtoto ukifanya kitu ya fujo yote huko nje, hiyo si ya hapa ndani ya sport. Yani boxing ni ya ring peke yake, ni sports.
The COVID-19 pandemic has, however, dealt him a blow. The academy is temporarily shut. Kasongo is worried that his students may just fall into societal ills if the situation does not improve.
Kugrow unajua kwa mdogo, kuna vita saa yote, ama wengine wanaingilia mambo ma drugs, wengine wanakuwa waizi nini. Na try kutafuta wale vijana tunaweza toa kwa hiyo problems, waingia at least kwa boxing itapatia better future.
Umari amesaidia vijana na vijana wamebadilika. Kwa kweli zamani kulikuwa na vijana wabaya, lakini siku hizi wameacha mambo hiyo na wana train boxing na ukiwa pale like vile nimeshinda hiyo medal nimeshinda huko nikinia all the time, bendera Kenya inapigwa. Hiyo ni kama ile national anthem ikipigwa, so una feel proud pia, unaona. Na pia wao ni ambassador, ni kama ambassador, as an ambassador. Sasa hiyo pande hiyo nasema serikali pia iangalie watu, at least hata vitu kama medical, yani support ndogo tu.
So issue mob ni kuwa kama sasa vile mimi nilitoka niliacha Kinatanka, wamefinywa na system sana, na inakuwa boxers are not getting what they need to get. Generally boxing in Kenya is very poor, to be very honest.
If you hear about Kibra slums, many people think that it's a hotspot of crime, but according to Omar Kasongo, a former boxer, a legendary, he has been able to change the perspective by curbing crime in the society by engaging youth into various activities. That's boxing. Mercy Kulober, TV47 Sports.
Well, we can only say hongera Kasongo. Thank you, Mercy Kuloba, for that report. Now, Kakamega Homeboys scored 3 goals in the first half to secure a 3-1 win over hosts Poster Rangers in an FKF Premier League fixture at Utalii grounds in Nairobi on Friday afternoon. Christopher Mbehelo broke the deadlock in the 10th minute to pave way for David Odhiambo's brace, as Bernard Ondiek got Rangers consolation before the break. At the Moi Stadium in Kisumu, Bandari FC stretched their winless run to 4 games after a 1-1 draw against Western Stima, while Ulinzi Stars edged out Nzoia Sugar in Narok.